Hey everyone, how you doing? This is Amon Green, Green Bay Packers all-time leading rusher, and you're watching Packers Total Access Live, your daily source for Packer content. Go Pack, go!
Just realized I was muted. Here we go. All right, good deal. StreamYard, appreciate you guys completely changing the settings constantly on us. So, again, let's start over. Good morning. Welcome into PTA. My name is Clayton. We appreciate you guys hopping in here and talking ball with us today. It is February the 3rd. I bet my face looked hilarious talking with the mute button on. So, obviously, we're in here to talk linebackers today, as you can tell with the title. Do I think that linebackers are a top need? Absolutely not. I don't think it's something that you should go in free agency and go, we've got to get a stack backer. We got to get a stack backer. However, when you look at how these linebackers kind of shake out and the fact that Quay Walker is probably going to hit free agency, most likely won't be back with the Packers. There's a chance he would. I don't like the idea of letting him walk in free agency and then us not potentially replacing him, because who are you going to put alongside Edgerrin Cooper? Some people believe that Tyron Hopper's the guy. Some people believe Isaiah McDuffie can play that role, right? I don't think those are bad football players, but if you have an opportunity to upgrade the stack backer position, which I consider a tier 2 position of importance right there in the middle of your defense, I think that could be a huge get. So we're going to talk about the potential free agent targets at the linebacker position. We're going to talk about the top linebacker prospects as well. Now, I don't think you should go out there and reach on a linebacker either. It's not a top need. But when you pick at 52, if you've got a guy that you got a first-round grade on that falls right to you, why not? Why not go ahead and plug and play another starter right alongside Edgerrin Cooper? And the way I like to work this and workshop it, I guess you could say, anyone who says we don't need a stack backer, you're telling me that you would pass up on a second-round pick in Edgerrin Cooper again. If you could find an Edgerrin Cooper clone at pick 52, you're telling me it's a smart move to not do that, especially when you could potentially fill your offensive line needs in free agency, maybe grab a cornerback in free agency or get a cornerback a little later in the draft, however you look at it. Again, it's all going to come down to how does the board fall and obviously the level of importance when it comes to those specific players at those specific positions. So that's what we're going to dive into: top linebacker free agents, top linebacker draft prospects. Before we do, if you would, do that YouTube stuff for me, hit like, hit subscribe. If this is your first time tuning into PTA, welcome. Thank you for making us a part of your morning. We are not experts. We are not insiders. We're not media members. We are fans just like you talking Packers on a daily basis. We are a fan-driven show. So if you're looking for that type of content, make sure you hit like, make sure you hit subscribe, click the bell icon so you don't miss out on future live streams. Also, check out our community page over there at patreon.com/Packer Fan Total Access. Let's waste no time. Let's get into it. Top linebacker free agents. And again, we're going to run through these guys just like we have every other section here when it comes to positional importance, positional needs, and positional value in terms of unrestricted free agents according to Spot Track. Okay, so shout out to Spot Track. All the information that we're using came from their website, an awesome website. I would highly recommend anybody go over there and sign up. It's an awesome, awesome site. So how these free agents can help improve the Packers linebacker room. Notice I didn't say how we have to have this free agent, right? This is a top priority sign. Nobody's saying that. It's how can you improve that linebacker room if Quay Walker is not here next year, right? That's the big thing. So let's take a look at the top free agents. We're going to break it down first into previous average annual value. All right. Now, what does that mean? It means you take their entire contract, their previous contract, and you divide the total number on that contract by the years. That gives you what we call the AAV, average annual value. It doesn't mean the team was on the hook for the cap for that. It doesn't mean the team had to actually pay that out. It doesn't mean that that's the signing bonus. It's going to be a smaller portion of that AAV that's going to be the signing bonus, and that determines how much you're actually on the hook for when it comes to the salary cap. So again, we sorted by this. Here are the top available free agents based off their previous average annual value. You'll notice the market value off to the right. Okay, so really what you're looking at is previous contract, and then the market value will kind of show you whether their value, their stock has dipped or not since they signed that previous contract. At the top of the list, no surprise, Mr. 35-year-old Bobby Wagner at $9 million previous average annual value. Now, we talked about Bobby Wagner 2 years ago. Before he signed with Washington the first time, we were like, that's a guy you need to go get to put alongside Quay Walker. we knew the linebacker play wasn't good enough, right? Of course, you go out, you end up drafting Edgerrin Cooper right around that time. Absolute stud of a pick. You love Edgerrin Cooper. Could you imagine if you had signed Bobby Wagner and he had stayed with the Packers this entire time? Would we be seeing us getting cooked on those crosser routes? Would we be complaining about the hesitation from Quay Walker biting underneath and really attacking underneath, kind of that processing speed, if you will? We know Quay's a freak, and I would love to have Quay Walker back at the right price. However, when you truly look at what these other stack backers bring to the table, like Bobby Wagner, another one, Demario Davis is very interesting, right? Matt Milano, we talked about him, all pro. Bobby Babich actually coached him. So would that be somebody we'd be interested in? I'm personally not interested in. I hope they wouldn't overpay for him, but that might be a veteran they could bring in, right? But going down the list, Bobby Wagner, $9 million. Levante David, who played for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at $9 million. Spoiler alert, I'm not a big David fan personally. I know he's an athletic freak too, if I remember correctly, but not a big fan of him. Demario Davis out of New Orleans. Kenneth Murray from Dallas. Then you've got Caden Ellis from Atlanta, Matt Milano from Buffalo, Alex Anzalone from Detroit, Von Miller. Now, keep in mind, some of these may be edge rushers that are mixed and matched in. So you guys call them out. Like Alex Anzalone is kind of a hybrid player, right? So maybe you don't view him truly as a stack backer. He's more of he can play a little stack backer. He can also rush the quarterback. I kind of feel like we got that in Quay right now. And I'm okay with having stack backers that can rush the quarterback, but I need somebody who's just not going to kind of sit back there and cover grass, right? They've got to be able to latch on to the concepts. And what I mean by concepts, I mean the passing concepts, the route combinations. They need to be able to understand that when you're in a 2x2 set against this team this week, the film study suggested they may run a drive concept, okay? So you need to know how to read the 1 to the 2 and what depth to play at. Maybe you get shallow enough to take the 1 away and then be willing and ready to fade back and take the 2. These are the things that really stresses defense, especially when you're sitting in a zone defense, right? That you want to flood those zones with these specific concepts. So I want somebody who's quick twitch that can make those decisions, right? And really the one that comes to mind for me is he's a little bit lower on the list is Devin Bush. He's actually below Quay Walker in previous average annual value, but you'll notice, or not Devin Bush, I'm sorry, Devin Lloyd, but you'll notice here in a second, his value is through the roof. We may be outpriced on Devin Lloyd, okay? But again, you're willing to overpay for great. You're not willing to overpay for good. I feel like Quay Walker has been an above average linebacker, maybe even average. Now, PFF thinks he's been horrible. I'm not quite there, okay? But I don't think he warrants getting paid a huge contract. And you'll kind of see Spot Track values him where I've kind of said I've valued him. And they've got Quay Walker valued at $8.2 million. His previous was 3.4. So he made himself some money. We've talked about that. Now, will a team look at his measurables? Will they look at his freak athletic ability and say, you know what, guys? Let's overpay for him. I want that player. I want him, go get him. And would they be willing to pay 12 or 15 million per? It's possible. But if you're telling me we could get Quay Walker back for 8 million, and that's, it was reported during the season, the Packers offered Quay Walker a contract. I don't want to say he declined it, but they continued to negotiate and they just never got there, right? What that tells me is Quay Walker wants to test the market. Quay Walker thinks he's more valuable than what the Packers offered. What did the Packers offer him? Did they offer him 8 million? If so, market value suggests that's pretty fair. Now, if they offered him 5 million or 4 million, maybe he's insulted and he won't even sign with Green Bay. That could be the case, right? We won't know until free agency opens up. But again, that's just a handful of players. I want you to really key in on Devin Lloyd down there from Jacksonville, 27 years old. Devin Bush, too, I'm interested to see where he falls here as well. We're going to line it up with PFF grades, too. So let's go down to market value, okay? Average annual value in terms of market value. So you'll notice Devin Lloyd at the top of the list, 20.1 million average annual value. Now, what does that mean, guys? If you were to sign him to a 4-year, $80 million deal, how much of it would it be guaranteed? Okay. So you may have a situation where it's, let's say, and I don't even know what the guaranteed money should be. We could troubleshoot that, or we could do a quick little deep dive if we wanted to. I don't want to tie up time here to do that. But the guaranteed money, let's say it's 20 million guaranteed of the 80 million. Well, essentially, it could become a 1-year, $20 million deal is how you can look at that. Now, you're going to spread that cap hit out. That way, the dead cap accelerates to the final year he's here. What I mean is if you give him 4 years, $80 million, on the surface, it looks like a Aaron Banks type contract, right? But as we reported, as soon as the Aaron Banks contract details came out, everybody said they overpaid, right? And maybe they did. But the thing we pointed out was, guys, this is really a 1-year deal. The Packers can move on after 1 year. they're not tied up for a long period of time. Again, cash over cap, right? Like they agreed to more guaranteed money, and with that more guaranteed money, the way it's structured, they can get out of it after that first year. Again, we could cut Aaron Banks at guard and free up $4 million, right? Now, it's not ideal because if you go post June 1 cut, you can free up $18 million with him, right? If I remember correctly. $18 million you can free up post June 1 cut. So Devin Lloyd, if you went 4 years, $80 million, $20 million guaranteed, you may need to do more than that. I would be okay with doing $30 million guaranteed, right? And then essentially it would be a 2-year deal, right? Because it's going to be, you can get out of the contract after 2 years the way you could structure that. And you're saying, why would Devin Lloyd do that? Because he wants another bite at the apple, just like Aaron Banks. You think Aaron Banks isn't happy about getting, what was it, $27 million fully guaranteed? And then if we decide to move on, guess what? He's a free agent again, and he just pocketed that guaranteed money. That's cash over cap, right? So Demario Davis is another interesting one. His previous 8.6, he's kind of held steady. 9.4 is now his market value. Quincy Williams is Quentin Williams' brother. Wouldn't be surprised if Dallas makes a run at him. He's almost 30 years old, but his previous was $6 million. His market value suggests his stock has risen to 9.1. I don't think that would be a bad signing. People are going, he's almost 30, Clayton. I don't care. We need 2 or 3 30-year-olds on this team if we want to continue, if we don't want to continue making mistakes in these crucial situations, these crucial games, right? And I'm sick of hearing, and this ain't no shot at anybody in here. I just listen to a lot of sports talk, and it's like, well, you go younger so you can stay healthy. How did that work out this year? We had the youngest roster in the league, and we were arguably the most decimated by injuries. That is proven to be false. In my opinion, it's kind of the opposite. When you've got guys who have learned to play at the NFL level for the last 5, 7, 8 years, and they know how to avoid injury, they know how to stay in the lineup, they know how to protect their body, is that just going to get thrown to the wayside because they're 28 years old, they're 29 years old? So I wouldn't be crazy opposed to someone like that if the grades matched up, if the tape matched up. So Devin Bush, actually Quincy Williams, like we said, 9.1 million. He's made himself a little bit of money. Looks like Caden Ellis from Atlanta, previously 7.1, now 8.9. Devin Bush from Cleveland, previously 3.2, up to 8.8. And then Quay Walker, of course, we talked about, previously 3.4. He's made himself some money up to 8.2. So when you're looking at a Devin Bush, if you're willing to sign a Devin Bush, you probably want to keep Quay Walker if you can get him at the right price. But if these market values or hold to be true that they're lower than what the market value actually is, we're going to find that out when the rubber meets the road, right? Then Quay may jump up to Demario Davis's level or even close to Devin Lloyd's level. Maybe Devin Lloyd won't get 20.1. Maybe he'll drop down to about 15. So again, it's not a top priority, but I think we should keep an eye on the stack backer position for sure. Now let's talk about PFF grades. All right. I took all these players from the top 5 teams on both these lists. Okay. So Jacksonville, New Orleans, New York Jets, Atlanta Falcons, Cleveland, Green Bay. I think I don't know if I included Philly in there or not, but here are the grades. Here is how these players shake out. If you said PFF was everything, and we're not saying that, it's just another metric we can use. Devin Lloyd was the 3rd highest graded linebacker this year at 88.4. Devin Bush from Cleveland, 87.6. So when you look at that 87.6 for Devin Bush, and then you bounce back and look at, all right, he's 27 years old, only 8.8 million. That seems like a screaming deal. 4-year deal, get out of it after 2 if you need to. To me, that I would be okay with that signing. Demario Davis, 80.3. Again, Demario Davis, where did he land on this list? He's 2nd at 9.4. So that would be money well spent, in my opinion. Again, Devin Lloyd breaking the bank there, man. 88.4 elite grade. Devin Bush seems a little more appealing to me than Devin Lloyd when you're just strictly looking at the PFF grades compared to the AAV and the projected market value. But that's looking good. Here's Bobby Wagner. Guys, understand, there's going to be people in the comments going, I can't believe you want to sign Bobby Wagner. He's so old. Why would you sign somebody that old? They were saying that 3 years ago, and the dude continues to grade out as a top 10 linebacker. Now, as I said back then, this could be the year he hits the wall. But boy, oh boy, we just keep kind of shuffling our feet and going, we need to stay young. We need to stay young. We need to stay young. It bothers me to think of where this team may have been. Could we have went deeper in the playoffs if you had a veteran who's got a Super Bowl ring and Bobby Wagner, somebody who's been a team captain pretty much everywhere he's gone, somebody who had a lot of experience in the cover 3 buzz, which, he's kind of followed Dan Quinn around, right? Dan Quinn, when he left Dallas, he went to Washington. Obviously, Dan Quinn got brung up through the Legion of Boom days in Seattle, and obviously that's where Bobby Wagner made his hay. That's where he played his best football. So Bobby Wagner, I would be okay with for the right price. What's Wagner's number here? 7.6 million. All right, 7.6 million. So give me a 1-year deal for 8 million, 6 million guaranteed. I'd be okay with adding Bobby Wagner to the roster. Again, these are some of those deals that you can kind of get away with, right? Now, Levante David is showing that his stock has gone down, and PFF agrees, 52.6. And keep in mind, Spot Track isn't including PFF grades. They're doing other comps, age, performance, tackles for loss, things like that, right? Statistically, also staying healthy, being available, that type of thing. So when you look at this list, Edgerrin Cooper was the 17th highest graded linebacker. Guys, that was a down year for him. He graded out in the 80s his rookie year. Could you imagine adding a Devin Bush, Demario Davis, Bobby Wagner, hell, even a Diablo there? I don't know if he's probably not available. Never mind. Yeah, I don't think he's available. He just happened to fall into the Atlanta list. So someone in those top 3 or 4, could you imagine lining them up alongside Edgerrin Cooper? And if you're going Clay, I want Quay Walker back. Why are you so down on Quay? It's not just the PFF grade. Again, I think he played better than the PFF grade. But when I watch the tape, and I look at how Quay played, I am underwhelmed. I'm like, I can't pay that guy $10 million. I just can't do it. He's a physical freak, but I can't do that. There's too many mental lapses. There's too many, being hesitant underneath. Edgerrin Cooper, there's no hesitation at all. So that's the hard part is you see Edgerrin Cooper play alongside Quay Walker, and I'm going, Edge is shooting his shot, and he's not making mental mistakes. Quay's been in the league for 4 years. Like, again, I can't pay him $10 million. Justifying he was the 76th highest graded linebacker here, according to them, right? So I would rather start Isaiah McDuffie alongside Edgerrin Cooper than I would actually have Quay Walker back at that price. Because, again, Isaiah McDuffie is going to be much, much cheaper. So that's the way I see the stack backer position. That's how it shakes out for me. I would like to see them potentially go out there and get a guy for $8 or $9 million per. It'd be about $6 million against the cap this year. You wipe your hands clean of Quay Walker, especially if he ends up landing a lot of money, and you can fix that stack backer room very, very quickly. So that's the linebacker free agents. We're going to shift gears now into top linebacker draft prospects. But before we do, if you're watching this video back later, let me know in the comments. How do you feel about everything we covered? How do you feel about that free agent list? How do you feel about the PFF grades attached? Do you think Bobby Wagner is too old to sign? How do you think that maybe Devin Lloyd is not worth $20 million per? I don't know if we can afford him anyway, to be honest with you. Which of these guys would you like to sign? Let us know in the comments. Make sure you hit like, make sure you hit subscribe, click the bell icon so you're notified every time we go live here on PTA. All right, we got Jacob joining us now. Jacob, how you doing this morning, sir?
Good, man. Listening back to that segment while I was running to get up here. Yeah, I like a lot of those guys. I think Demario Davis, or is Demario Douglas?
Demario Davis out of New Orleans.
Yeah. I like him. That's very intriguing. I like also the idea of Devin Bush too. That's especially for that price. You know me, yes. Cheapskate. If we could actually rope that in, and it'd be nice.
Yeah, completely agree. Like, it would be a dream to get someone like Devin Lloyd, but if you were to remove the names, remove the teams and everything, just like Bobby Babbage said, it's just a silhouette. And all right, here's what our scouts, here's what our coaches graded them out at. And you said, all right, you can have a guy who graded out. Both these guys are A's. They both graded out A, okay? And then when it comes to age, you're talking about one being 27 years old and the other being 37 or not 37. Devin Bush, where you at? 27. They're both 27 years old. So you'd say, Jacob, they're both 27 years old. Okay. They both got an A by our scouts. They looked at the tape and said they both graded out as an A. One's worth $20.1 million. The other, we could get an 8.8. You're saying 8.8 all day. Even if he was graded out around 80, right? You would do that. So, yeah, I agree, man. Devin Bush is the one that kind of grabs our attention. Now, listen, will he be the same player without Jim Schwartz? I don't know. But I like the fact that, Matt Milano was on this list. Matt Milano's his grades have obviously went into the pooper here recently, I believe. Yeah, he's not even
trying to find him on that list. I couldn't see him. The other thing to consider too is, obviously they're completely different positions, but you can't argue that because Devin Bush, he's got arguably the best pass rusher in history that most offenses are basically trying to, dictate their whole offensive scheme around not having that guy impacted. So you can't tell me that doesn't help the linebackers a little bit, free up a little space. You know what I mean?
Right now, I think it's a great point, and I'll get to that in just a second, Chris. I'm gonna keep that up there so I don't forget it, man. I think it's a great question. So when you look at our boy Matt Milano, Buffalo was not added in. That was my fault. So the top graded Buffalo linebackers here are Shaq Thompson. He's not a free agency, obviously. Dorian Williams, I do not believe was a free agent, right? He is not. So Matt Milano, Jacob, last year, 46.2. Now, keep in mind, Matt Milano was an all-pro, if I remember correctly. The year he was an all-pro, Bobby Babich coached him. Now Bobby Babich is on our coaching staff. Now, keep in mind, he's going to be passing game coordinator, but I think he will be involved with the stack backers too. Hopefully, he won't just be in the secondary room. But with that being said, maybe that's a guy that can get the same amount or at least similar value out of Devin Bush, who was with Cleveland with Jim Schwartz, than maybe someone other than, like I said, Bobby Babich. Chris Ian in the chat says, Nakobe Dean, Clayton, what's your thoughts? So Nakobe Dean on this list, his previous was 1.3. All right. His market value is 7.8. He's 25 years old, same age as Quay, right? I think they came out the same year, if I remember correctly.
Let me Georgia see. Boys, aren't they?
I think they are. Yeah, I think you're right. Let me see where he falls because I don't know if I had him on the list. I don't think I did. Philadelphia Eagles, Nakobe Dean. He graded out a 62.2. Here's the thing about Dean, and I remember this now. I remember both Michael Lombardi and Greg Cosell talking about he's a Sam backer is what he is. He's a Sam backer in a league where Sam backers are dying off. Okay. So what does that mean? That means when you're in your 4-3 base, he will play typically on the strong side of the line of scrimmage over the tight end. He's got to be able to cover the tight end. He got to be able to rush the passer, set the edge, that type of thing, right, from time to time. So think of him as your fifth pass rusher. But again, if you get into just, all right, we're just going to bring five, we're going to bring five, we're going to bring five, you're going to find yourself very vulnerable in the passing game with your pass defense. His PFF grade, 62.2. You go, it's not horrible. Right. Would you be willing, though, to pay $7.8 million for that? I don't think it's a horrible deal because it's probably going to be $5 million against the cap in year one. However, listen to this. Run defense, 42.4. All right. Coverage grade, 62.6. So, Clayton, how is he a 62.2? His pass rush grade was a 92.4. So, unless you're going to blitz him every time, to me, he's just not a well-rounded stack backer. In that regard. Hopefully that answers your question there, Chris. I don't think it's a horrible signing for the money. And someone else may see him predominantly as a pass rusher, although I do remember his size being an issue that he wouldn't be an every down edge rusher. He's just going to be kind of that one trick pony of, yeah, he can play stack backer, but rush the quarterback. He's not that good of a stack backer, if that makes sense. So you bet, bud. Oh, sorry. Yeah. You bet, Chris. Appreciate you, man. All right. Let's move along, man. Let's go on now to, I'd like to keep that off to the side if I can. Let me throw that over here and we'll have it. So now let's get into a little prospect talk. We're going to talk linebacker prospects in this year's draft. And of course, I popped up the wrong one. Give me just a second here. The production value of this show is so bad. This show sucks so bad.
Man, I was listening in my car and I'm like, Clayton, you're on mute? I think I even threw a
it's unbelievable, man. And what's crazy is
it's StreamYard, dude. Every time I log on to StreamYard, they have a new little.
They keep adding all these little features that we don't ask for. It's like, okay, I get up here, I make sure my mic's on and everything. Bang, we start the intro video. Now it's going to continue to hold the mute. It used to just mute it when the video stopped. You're good. Now I'm going to have to look off screen, make sure it's on mute. Okay, now it's just unbelievable. So I have to do some editing this morning. I'm really excited about that. Before I go to the CPA and give the government my money as well. So got to do that today. That's going to be fun. All right. Linebacker prospects. So we covered free agency, Jacob. We covered free agency a little bit, showed, all right, here's how you can fill some holes at the stack backer position in terms of free agents. Let's now shift gears to the draft, all right? Top linebacker prospects coming out of All-Star Week. Now, you'll notice my boy Rodriguez there on the left. Absolutely love him. One of my favorite prospects this year out of Texas Tech. Texas Tech is loaded with players in the draft this year. They're kind of like the new Ole Miss. You know, last year it seemed like there was Ole Miss players everywhere. Texas Tech is kind of that team this year, at least, you know, early in the process. So let's jump into it. Here are, and I know it may be hard for you guys to read on the screen. You can find this over at patreon.com/PackerFan Total Access. This is our draft board, all right? And here are the top linebackers in the draft according to our draft board. Again, we're not saying it's the most accurate. We're not saying it's the gospel. We've explained time and time again how we come up with this. We put PFF grades, 3 years of PFF grades into the mix. We talk about the PFF big board. We include the consensus big board. We include Daniel Jeremiah, Walter Football. There's Senior Bowl and East-West Shrine Bowl bonuses as well. So there's a lot of things that come into factor here. Let's go down the list. Sonny Styles, linebacker out of Ohio State. We got a 12.7 grade. The consensus big board has him at 15. Arvell Reese, versatile linebacker at Ohio State. Some people see him as a pass rusher. Other people see him as just a stack backer. Most people see him as a hybrid, kind of like Nakobe Dean. However, I feel like Arvell Reese can play stack backer much better than Nakobe Dean. That's just my personal opinion. 20.4 grade. All right. Second on the consensus big board. CJ Allen, linebacker out of Georgia. This is where it gets interesting because, we're picking at 52. We've got a 43.0 grade on CJ Allen. He's out of Georgia. This is obviously where Quay went. It's where Nakobe Dean went to, if I remember correctly, right? 28th on the consensus big board. Daniel Jeremiah's got him in a 22 spot, okay? And keep in mind, Sonny Styles and Arvell Reese, Daniel Jeremiah's got both of those guys in his top 5 and 3, respectively. And I see the super chat. We'll hit it here in a minute, buddy. Appreciate you. Jake Golday, linebacker out of Cincinnati. He was at the East-West Shrine Bowl, okay? We got a 50.7 on him, all right? And then we've got – and Jacob, if the super chats apply to the conversation we're having right now, we can go ahead and throw those up and prioritize.
Yeah.
Okay? If they don't –
the real deal just was talking about how he goes, he might not be a stack backer, but he loves Golday out of Cincy. So
there you go. All right. We've got him listed as a stack backer right now. I'll do a little more research on that, Joseph, and figure that out there. So yeah, Jake Golday out of Cincinnati. He was at the East-West Shrine Bowl. 50.7 is the grade. Consensus big board has him at 61. So there's your first stack backer that you might potentially be able to take at 52. Now, again, I hate the idea of us taking a stack backer at 52 this year. I really do. I think there's going to be so much value at interior offensive line in general. I think there's going to be so much value there at cornerback. And those are two more important needs than stack backer. But if you get here and you've got a Golday or a Rodriguez who's next on the list, one of my draft crushes this year, if he's sitting there at 52 and you got a first-round grade on him or an early second-round grade, it's going to be hard to pass up on that player, right? Jacob Rodriguez, linebacker out of Texas Tech. He shined at the Senior Bowl, guys, so he gets the 5-point bonus there. 54.8 is his grade from us. He's 94th on the PFF or on the consensus big board, 93rd on the consensus big board. That would suggest, Jacob, we could potentially take Jacob Rodriguez with our 3rd round pick. So imagine a scenario where you go get Tyler Linderbaum in free agency, you take a cornerback at 52, and then you wrap back around and get Jacob Rodriguez with your 3rd round pick, with your 3rd round pick. And then in the 4th round, you make another swoop through with these interior offensive linemen, like potentially a Bo Stevens or somebody like that might drop. Boy, I would be over the moon with that offseason. How do you feel about that?
That sounds good to me, man. I mean, that's what's fun about this time of year is that we get to kind of have this wishful thinking and they play out these scenarios, these perfect kind of simulations. The only thing I'm a little bit worried about is I'm looking at mock draft database right now. They got Jacob Rodriguez all the way up at 58. So, if people – and a lot of people do, right? Like I've seen a lot of them where they've got him as like the 2nd or 3rd best backer. Some of them even saying that he's, like you said, kind of their draft crush. But in a perfect world, dude, that's exactly how I would want it to go. Linderbaum, get yourself a stud corner that maybe could even play his first year. Come back around, get your linebacker, and then, like you said, come back into the draft and get that inside offensive lineman. Hopefully, someone that has a mullet or something like that, Right. Or at least a cool first name, which, by the way, I know we're getting there, but if we don't get a guy named Scooby on our team that's from A&M, come on now.
Scooby Williams. It don't look good, Jake, unless he's an undrafted free agent, but we'll talk about it. So, yeah, with Jacob Rodriguez, people are going, hold up a minute. So people have him. He's now climbed up to the 50 spot, you said, right, Jacob, in the 50s? Is that right? Okay. So people are going, Clayton, why do you get the consensus big board at 94? Here's why. I'll make sure all that data gets in. I do this every single year as long as I build a draft board. I make sure the data's in the second the national championships played. As soon as all that buzz, the college football season, okay, this is how everybody felt about these players immediately following the college football season. And the reason I do that is because sometimes we can overhype guys, right? Again, I told you I like Jacob Rodriguez. But now what's going to happen is he's going to climb into the 50s, and it's going to – according to our board, we're going to go. Now, here's what's crazy. Our board was already suggesting 54.8. He's worthy of the 54th pick. So we already had him there, right? The consensus big board had him at 94. So how did we get him to the 50s before the consensus big board did? You understand what I'm saying? It's because we looked at the PFF grades, right? We're taking into consideration the Senior Bowl bonus, all that. So we got to the same place. But imagine if we now change his number to 50 right there, right? That's going to drop his number down significantly. And now we're going to see him like a first-round talent or something. And again, I want to know how everyone felt about these players based off of the tape, based off of the season when they were actually playing football and not just practicing or when we get to the combine and the pro days running around in their underwear. So I think it's awesome that I almost want to reach out to the consensus big board and PFF big board and go, hey, welcome to the party, guys. You're a little late. We're already here. We had him at 54.8. So, again, he's not going to be the 54th best prospect for us, but that 54.8 suggests you could take him in the 50s, and that would be a good value pick. So, pretty cool. We got a super chat here from Mike. He says, being that it's a copycat league, how important is it to not draft, quote, hype, but draft according to scheme and players currently on our roster? Go Pack Go. It's very important. Now, listen, you always want to stick to the board, right? If you got a position of need and you got a cluster of players at different positions, then, yeah, go get the position of need. But you want to stick to the board or trade back to where the board lines up with where your needs are is typically how that works, unless it's a tier 1 position of importance or in some cases a tier 2 position of importance, right? But what you're saying there with the copycat league, it's so true. The hype is what you got to really be careful of. And if you haven't caught on, our board is designed, okay, it's created to prevent us from buying into that hype. You know, somebody the other day said you need to it was kind of a rude comment, and we get those from time to time. It is what it is. They said, and I'm paraphrasing, but they said, you need to forget about what the board says and just go with your gut with the player you like. And I'm like, no. So you see a player make 2 or 3 highlight reels, a one-handed catch or up in somebody and, flip them in the air and you go, oh, he's a dog. And then you go look at the other 85% of the tape and look at the board. The board is telling you consistency, multiple years of play at the college level, right? It's talking about how did they look at the end of the year. I want to remove all the emotion. Again, this board is not my personal opinion. This board is a compilation of the personal opinion of people that we trust in the draft community, okay? We throw it all into one thing, bake it up. That's it. Again, remove the ego. That's what it comes down to. So
yeah, he's got a follow-up real quick. She says, knowledge, Clayton, is not your opinion, but your research and trusting the process. That's the biggest part about what he just basically said there. Yeah.
And that's exactly how, I don't want to say all of them, but most GMs operate is like, you got to stick to the board. Like we remember, if you go back and remember the Aaron Rodgers pick, this is a perfect example, right? So in the draft room, they said as they kept getting closer to pick 22, I think. And Ted Thompson, he said he kept looking up at the board and noticing, if he's there, we're going to have to take Aaron. And we got Brett and this and that, right? So they get down there and they get within 2 picks, and then they notice the teams in front of them, unless somebody trades up, they're not going to take a quarterback. So Ted Thompson goes to Bob Harlan and says, Bob, can you come out in the hallway with me real quick? And you guys know who Bob Harlan is, right? Bob Harlan is royalty in Green Bay. That dude, everything you see, Mark Murphy gets a lot of credit for Titletown, and he should, but none of that happens if Bob Harlan didn't forecast the whole future of, hey, we need to build an atrium around Lambeau Field. We need to make this a year-round destination. And then that trickled into what is now Titletown. It used to be a Kmart over there, right? So all of that happened because of Bob Harlan. So Ted Thompson grabs Bob Harlan, who was the president at the time. They go out in the hallway and said, listen, when we pick at 22, if Aaron's there, I'm going to take him. And you need to know it's going to get loud. We're going to catch a lot of hell. We're going to catch a lot of heat for this, right? And Bob Harlan looked him in the eye and said, you're the GM, Ted. Make the call. I support you. And he knew the boos were going to rain down in the draft party downstairs in the atrium. He knew the crap was going to hit the fan when they drafted him. But again, the board, tier 1 position of importance in quarterback, and he was the best player on the board. And he said, got to stick to the board. You got to stick to the board. If he doesn't stick to the board there and just focuses on need, right, and emotion, like I need to win now. I need to protect my job now. We miss out on however many years it was that Aaron Rodgers was here and that Super Bowl, in my opinion. So that's why it's important to remove the emotion.
You can look at the opposite side of that spectrum as a GM that knows what he's doing, that, like you said, doesn't let certain intangibles affect what he's going to do. J. Cole brings up a good point. Is it true the Vikings former GM used PFF to draft players? That's the rumor I've heard.
That is the rumor. Yeah.
And what's crazy is that guy was apparently this supposed steal, out of the coaching tree because he's so good at drafting. And I would argue that if you talk to any Vikings fan that has been a Vikings fan over the last 5+ years, they've said our drafts have been absolutely booty cheeks. So it's interesting to see the double side coin, right? Like, people like to complain about Gutekunst, and I can understand certain moves that would make you scratch your head maybe sometimes, but going back at what we've had, the luxury, everybody highlights the quarterbacks and the success we've had over the last 30 years. Well, there's a reason. It's because from the top down, this organization was ran by very respectable men that didn't let emotion, didn't let the media, didn't let a lot of other intangibles affect the way that they drafted and the way that they ran the organization. I think that's something to be said for.
Yeah, and the media gets mad over that, right? They refer to Green Bay or 1265 as Red China and this and that. It's like, oh, they want – of course they're not going to let their information out, man. Are you kidding me? It'd be like if a reporter came to me just randomly, I'm out mowing a yard somewhere, one of my 85 customers, and they come up to me and go, hey, if you don't care, we're gonna put something on the news tonight. Will you tell us about your books? Will you tell us about what your plan is for your business model moving forward in 2027? Knowing that all the other landscaping companies in Washington County is going to be watching that, like, why would I do that? So again, you can get upset about it. You can get aggravated about it. As a fan, I want as much information as I can possibly get, but you got to understand why they do it. They don't want to give up that competitive edge. So, and most of the time, the folks that say, oh, you're not giving up a competitive edge, they don't truly understand how a roster is built right now. In terms of that PFF thing, everybody's framing that like that's all they used. I don't know that, Jacob. If it is, that's crazy. If it's just like whatever PFF says, that's what we're taking. But I will say this: there are a ton, if not every, NFL team that uses PFF data. That's been proven.
I'm sure
There's been coaches talk about it, right? So there's kind of two different ends of the spectrum there. But yeah, he's a very analytics-based guy. And again, the analytics is crap in the bed here lately. You don't believe me? Go ask Sean Payton. They're not going to the Super Bowl because he wanted to, and again, it sounds like he went against the analytics, although, not kicking the field goal. So it's just really strange. The analytics does not know the flow of the game. They don't know whether your right tackle can block their 3-tech on the left side of their line. It doesn't know that there's snow in the second half. You better take all the points you can get. Analytics doesn't know that stuff, right? So you could probably bake it in, but that's not the analytics they're using. But yeah, Coach Lamb makes a great point. It's the same with the Love pick. Exactly. Same with the Love pick there when it comes to just sticking to the board, man. Sticking to the board. So that's kind of your top linebackers. You got Anthony Hill Jr. at 64.6. That would be a great value pick, in my opinion. Or actually, no, it wouldn't if he goes at 38. I apologize. It's actually the opposite. He's in the 38 pick, 64.6, not a good pick. I was thinking of the next one. Torin York, linebacker out of Texas A&M. He was at the East-West Shrine Bowl, 79.7. The consensus big board had him at 108. So that would be a good value pick. I'll tell you another good value pick, and I've talked about him. He's battled an ankle injury. Emilio's going to love this. Red Murdoch from Buffalo. Guys, they had him at 191 on the consensus big board. The PFF big board didn't even have him, okay? And he was listed as an East-West Shrine Bowl guy. And I'm like, okay, let me do some research on him. Well, he didn't play at the East-West Shrine Bowl, but he went there and did all the meetings and everything. He's nursing an ankle injury. 97.5 is the grade we got on him. If he's around in the 190 spot, Jacob, could you imagine getting him later in the draft? That would be awesome. And the same thing applies for Kyle Lewis or Luis, however you say his name, out of Pittsburgh. Had a great Senior Bowl, got the 5-point bonus, 109.8 for him. 159 is where he's at on the board. So if you could get him around the 130 spot or wherever you're picking, and with a 109.8 grade, that would be great too. So you're seeing Red Murdoch and Kyle Lewis out of Pittsburgh. There's two guys that you could potentially nab later in the draft to help kind of fill that stack backer room as well.
Yeah, it's interesting. Obviously, I'm a sucker for the name. I know it. I know that's stupid, but Red Murdoch, come on, man. How do you not like a guy like that? The consensus big board for the mock draft database has him at 195. Kyle Lewis seems like he may be shot up a little bit. They have him over in the 115 range.
Mm-hmm. So there you go. He jumped 40 spots because of the way he performed at the Senior Bowl.
Right.
So welcome aboard, Consensus Big Board. We've been here for a month now, Pretty cool. It makes me proud of the board and everything we've created. I started this board in 2010 where it was a whiteboard on my wall, and I would literally write them in from the consensus big board data, or the closest thing I could find to it, and then I would go through and try to find any statistical comparisons for each player and give them a plus or a minus and shift it around. And now it's evolved into all this. It's just it's a lot of fun to put together. Now, a new addition to the board, and we'll wrap this segment up. Notice right here in this column, that's your 2023 grades. Now you're going, why is that green? Why is that light green, the teal color, whatever, your turquoise, whatever you want to call it? Those, any prospect on our board that has those, I'm going to have Emilio get y'all a new link today. That means we have filled out a prospect report for them, a scouting report, okay? And notice I didn't do any of the top backers because I don't think they'll be available. I keyed in on the guys that might be available when we pick in the second and third round. So you can literally go to our Patreon group, patreon.com/Packer Fan Total Access, and you can click on, or you can go to the library screen. I think it's actually this tab right here. Yeah, library. You click on that, and in the search bar, you can just type in Goal Day, hit enter, and a scouting report will pop up. You can click on it. It'll give you a full scouting breakdown on him. Now, once the top 30 visits are starting to trickle, when they start to trickle out in the draft process, we'll go even deeper on those players. We'll give you a full breakdown, talking about high school background, what they were scouted, were they a 3 or a 4-star athlete coming out of high school, all that stuff. So that'll be added in. Again, you can find that at patreon.com/Packer Fan Total Access. So if you guys are watching this video back later, let us know in the comments, how do you feel about those linebacker prospects? Is there anybody that grabbed your attention? Is there anyone there that you say, hey, I would like to nab him at 52? Or maybe you want to wait till the third round. Maybe you want to wait till the fourth or the fifth round. Let us know in the comments what you think about that. Make sure you hit like, subscribe, click the bell icon so you don't miss out on future content. All right, Jacob. We've hit everything I wanted to hit, man. You want to hang out and talk ball for a minute? You want to wrap this thing up?
I mean, I got some time today. Is it Josiah Trotter? Is that who I was looking at there? Yeah. Is that part of the Mr. Trotter lineage there? Is that just another linebacker that happens to share one of the best names?
No
Missouri guy, I think.
You're thinking of Jeremiah Trotter, right?
Yeah.
Might be related to him. I don't know, man. I haven't heard anything on that. I know we got him with a 125.0 grade. A consensus big board had him at 70. We could probably find that out. Somebody in the chat could probably find that out.
I was just going to say, somebody in the chat do a little.
Yeah. Is Josiah Trotter out of Missouri related to Jeremiah Trotter? And anything else you want to hit, go ahead. I'll look it up too. See if I can check it.
Yeah, no, I mean, linebacker has a special place in my heart. That's what I played in high school. So, like, anytime that I can just see some of these guys, like the Jacob Rodriguez thing, to me, that it feels unlikely that he'll be around, but man, it does just feel like it's a perfect match made in heaven. Listening to your early segment about some of the possible free agency acquisitions, I really do echo what you say, is that, like, a lot of times people would really pump the brakes on any guy that's over 30 and the Packers bringing him in, right? It just doesn't feel like stuff that we do lately, but I think that it's one of those things that just would really help this team. Like you said, one of the things you highlighted that, I love Quay, I really do. But the covering grass thing, that seems to me to be like one of the biggest red flags that I've seen about his career in Green Bay, where you're watching the game and he's just kind of standing there, doesn't seem to have any sort of like wherewithal about the routes that are the crossing routes that are coming over him. Even the fact that, like, he is an athletic freak of nature. We know that if he really had, I don't want to say like the mental capacity, but like the wherewithal and maybe the intuitiveness to try to jump routes or to try to just at least stick in someone's back pocket, that kind of stuff. It looks like J. Cole's saying he is the son.
Yeah, I've got it right here. Yeah, okay. Josiah Trotter is the son of former linebacker Jeremiah Trotter, who was a 4-time Pro Bowler for the Eagles. He's also the younger brother of Jeremiah Trotter Jr., who played for Clemson before being drafted by the Eagles in 2024. We talked about him in the draft process. As you requested, I have verified his current status and prepared a scouting report based on him. So we actually got a scouting report on him right
Let's
there
go.
Out of the gate as well. So 6'2", 237 is what they're showing here. Pro-ready instincts, downhill power, reliable tackler, high motor. His coverage, his weaknesses are his coverage range and lateral movement, though. So one of those guys probably going to be like, yeah. So again, and it kind of goes hand in hand with what you were just talking about, Jacob. When you look at someone like Quay Walker's a physical specimen, right? You got some guys who are physical freaks and they're slow processors, right? Yeah. And then you got other guys who are fast processors and they don't have many physical tools. You get the elite players when both of those things come together. Bobby Wagner was one of those guys early on in his career that he could process quick, and he was a physical freak, right? Some of the great linebackers in the history of the game, obviously. I mean, even with the Packers, when you think of like A.J. Hawk, physical freak. You know, he ran a 4.40, right? He could bring the thump. He was a good processor too. You know, he's a guy that was a captain, I think, almost every year he was in Green Bay. I can't remember how many, you know, he was a captain.
Good in pass coverage too. Like,
absolutely.
Surprising amount of interceptions for a guy that kind of big and clunky, but was still that fast.
And Pat McAfee talks about all the time that AJ has kind of gotten outshined by Brian Urlacher. If Brian Urlacher hadn't played in the same division with him, you're probably talking about AJ Hawk dominating the NFC North at stackbacker all those years, right? And again, the only reason he catches hell is because he was a top 5 pick. If they had taken him in the second round, he would be a beloved fan favorite. For whatever reason, if you take somebody in the top 5 and they're not the second coming of Ray Nitschke, then they're a bad player. No, he's not a bad football player. Now, did he live up to the top 5 hype? I think an argument can be made that he didn't. But again, he's got a Super Bowl ring. He won a national championship. He was always available playing hurt. I remember watching him play Monday Night Football against the Vikings, Aaron Rodgers' first start. I was right there in Lambeau Field, and they had to harness up the shoulder so he could play. And I'm telling you, there was so many times that me and the guy that was sitting next to me looked over each other like, God, I'm glad he's playing, because he really kept Adrian Peterson in check that whole game, even with that banged-up shoulder. AJ was a dog. Yeah, Mike says AJ doesn't get the love he deserves. I completely agree, man. Completely agree. And I think he's great on the McAfee show. People are like, he's boring. He just kind of sits there.
No, he's not. He's awesome, man.
It's amazing how people have such a low social IQ that they can't pick up on different different people's different
personalities.
Yeah. He is hilarious. The stuff he says that you can tell that only Pat gets. He'll say something, oh, okay, now, and he'll get all nervous because AJ's pushing you in a direction to something that might be a little controversial. He is hilarious when you understand his personality. So, yeah.
You know, the other guy that comes to mind who I don't think, well, I shouldn't say doesn't get the respect he deserves, but I think probably hung it up earlier than most people want him to, was Luke Kuechly. Like, that guy was brilliant and also could, like you said, kind of lay the thunder. So smart that almost like, you know, I think he was so smart that he realized, I got to get out of football while I can still walk. I think that's what he did, man.
Yeah, exactly. And as far as Jeremiah Trotter, somebody was asking how he performed this year. I don't know. Let me see if I can find. I think I've still got that pulled up. Let's see if we can figure out.
Mike C does bring up a good point. What about Matthews? He was a dog. I mean, that's you know, obviously he had to get shuffled around later in his career playing the inside linebacker, where he still, in my opinion, played pretty darn well for what we asked him to do. But man, I'll never forget the few first years that we had at Matthews where, I mean, that one specifically where he strips Adrian Peterson while he's running, takes the ball and runs it back for a tud, dude. Like, I remember literally spilling whatever drink I was drinking at the time, and I was just like, oh, I couldn't believe it. I thought that dude was such a stud. Talk about a good family bloodline there as well. I mean, the Matthews there's uncles, there's dads, there's brothers. I mean, they're all over that NFL.
Yeah. Absolutely. I was trying to see here. Jeremiah Trotter was in the same draft as our boy Edgerrin Cooper. We had Edgerrin Cooper one tier higher than Jeremiah Trotter Jr. We had Jeremiah Trotter Jr. in the 77 spot, okay, with an 89.3 grade. I'm not sure where he was drafted, but Chris M was asking, how did he play this year? He got hurt this year, okay? It looks like he's been banged up both years. He hasn't qualified for a grade, so he must have gotten hurt both years. But his rookie year, 76 is the PFF grade. This year, 82. But keep in mind, he only played, 81 snaps, I think. So it looks like he's been bitten by the injury bug is my guess here, because it showed his availability in week 4 through 8. So he was hurt before week 4, played 4, 6, and 8, then went back on the injured reserve again, it looks like, and came back in 15, 16, and then he played in week 18. He played 69 snaps and obviously graded out an 82.1. Pass rush grade was through the roof. Overall grade, 82.1, run defense 74, pass rush 90, coverage 68. So it looks like Jeremiah Trotter Jr. is going to be a solid player if he can stay healthy. And that's the other thing that comes into play as well. So, all right, anything else you want to hit before we wrap up, man?
No, I mean, real distance. How's Ray Lewis looking these days? He probably could still play better than about at least 30% of the league. I'd guarantee it.
Ray Lewis is always such a controversial name. Like, people either love him or they hate him. I was taught to hate him because, I lived in Tennessee, and, that clip of him just ripping the ball out of Eddie George's hands and running it for a touchdown, right? And that was back when the Titans were good then. So I had a lot of friends that were Titans fans. I was living in Knoxville at the time. And, and obviously everything coming out of college, like people either think he was guilty of what he was accused of, or they think he was completely innocent. There's no in between, right? I will say this, that as a Christian, at the time I was not a Christian, when he started all the Jesus talk, when he was facing all that stuff, and I'm going, man, it looks like he's just using that as a crutch. One thing I'll say about Ray, since that day forward, he seems to have been a great human being and taking care of people. And you hear stories everywhere about he's just always doing stuff for other people. He seems like he meant what he said at the time, if that makes sense. And I know it's not our place to judge, right? But at the time, I was a judge and heathen. I still judge, and I'm trying to get better at it. But he seems to have walked the walk since then. So you got to tip your cap for that.
It's interesting you brought that up, or that the chat brought that up, because obviously all sinners, especially when you're younger, you really don't have that wherewithal of you just, when you're young, you think that you're going to live forever. Yeah, it's just that old adage. And now, being an older guy, you look down at younger guys and you're like, and you sound like the old man that you used to kind of mock when you were young. It's funny how that works. But there was a clip I saw specifically of, I don't know if it was in the Super Bowl, but Jacoby Jones is about to return a kick. Ray Lewis walks up to him and he wipes him down, and he goes like, that's the hand of God. He goes, God just told me to wipe you down, boy, because you're about to score this touchdown. Takes it at the 108, or from 8 yards deep in the end zone, goes 108 yards, brings it to the tud, and the guy, he does the Ray Lewis celebration. Jacoby Jones does, runs over to the sidelines, and Ray Lewis let him have it, dude. He was just, can you imagine, like, what's scarier, Ray Lewis being really, really happy he hits it so hard, or that he's so angry he hits it so hard? It's like, either one I don't want.
Yeah. J. Cole says, I hear great stories about Ray. Same, Jay. The only bad thing is, obviously, and it was a horrible thing, right? And listen, he was proven, not guilty, innocent, not involved, however you want to say it. So you trust the justice system, and you got to roll with that. And again, man, I try not to judge. So, but I'm with you, man. Jay, it sounds like he's done some great things. The world is a better place, based off of what he's done since that event. That's for sure. I think we'd all agree. So again, man, really, really interesting when you look at some of the stories, the backstories of some of these players, though, for sure. So, all right, man, let's wrap it up. I got a lot of editing to do here. Jacoby Jones, I forgot. Yeah, he passed recently. Yeah. Passed away a little while back. That's right. So, yeah. All right. So there you go, guys. A little linebacker deep dive. Again, I don't think I want to make sure everybody understands what I'm saying here. I don't think it's a crucial need for the Packers, but I think it's a sneaky need, I should say, if Quay does walk in free agency. I'd like to see us maybe, how cool would it be that you could improve that room instead of just, all right, let's let it go. We wait, take a 6th-round pick, and then we're kind of resetting in the linebacker room. I do believe personally that Isaiah McDuffie and Tyron Hopper looked better than Quay. That's just me personally. That doesn't mean that Quay is a horrible football player. It doesn't mean I don't want Quay back, but if his market gets over $10 million, hey, man, appreciate you. Go get your money, Quay, type of thing. So let us know in the comments, how do you feel about everything we covered today? Jacob, appreciate you jumping in, man. You guys make sure you hit like, subscribe, click the bell icon. The best way to support what we do here at PTA is to join our Patreon group, patreon.com/Packer Fan Total Access. I'll make sure that this goes up too. So basically what's going to happen with PackerNet, we're going to have 5 episodes going up a week for PackerNet, so you guys have access to that. That was, Ryan's decision, everything with his network, and definitely appreciate all the opportunities he's given us and a platform and everything else. So you guys will still find 5 episodes there a week, and then we'll have an overflow channel as well. He'll always have first dibs on our content, always, Ryan will. But if you guys want more content, you can find that in our overflow, wherever you get your podcasts as well. So appreciate you, Jacob. Everybody have a great day. We'll be back. I'm going to go edit this 2 minutes of me spilling my guts into the microphone now. So I'm going to get that taken care of for everybody. And we'll probably be back a little later today. Tomorrow, Goody Speaks. We'll definitely be bringing you coverage of that. And I'm sure we'll dive into some more stuff a little later this afternoon. So everybody have a great day. My name's Clayton. That's Jacob. This is PTA. Go Pack Go.
Here we go. We're out.
Bye, guys.